Hi all, this is Linda and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about fear and fearlessness. This is a topic that I started thinking about a few years ago because I was out in a restaurant with a good friend of mine and her child, who's like a surrogate child to me, and she was a preteen at the time. And I can't remember what the situation was. I think I just went to the waiter to ask a question or ask them for something special or something like that. And my friend's daughter said to her mom, oh my gosh, she's fearless. And her mom obviously told me, and I just thought that was a very interesting comment for many reasons, but mostly because I've never really seen myself as a fearless person. In fact, I'm actually not a fearless person. I'm not quite certain that anybody is. But it sort of started a thought process in my mind about this idea that we have about fearlessness in our culture, or more accurately, in our society. Now, at the time, I was already on my spiritual and self-development journey, so that sort of kind of folded in to my process at the time, more specifically because I was dealing with some issues that were showing up in my life that actually were directly tied to my fears. As I've mentioned in other videos, I come from trauma, and children that grow, and I think arguably you could say that everybody has trauma in their lives to different or varying degrees. But specifically children who come from a bit of more of the type of trauma that is more recognized in our society, you know, physical violence, your physical abuse, your mental abuse, psychological abuse, etc., tend to have a life experience that is very often, not always, but very often, very intrinsically linked with fear. For example, in my own personal experience, I actually, looking back now, I lived most of my adult life making choices based on fear. My life was ruled by my fears. And by that, I don't mean making choices in spite of my fears or taking into account my fears. What I actually mean is that, in fact, I was making choices to avoid certain things or try to go around certain things out of fear. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a negative thing, but it is something that was, at the time, I realized was hindering my progress and my evolution as a human being and as a soul. So one of the things that I find very interesting about that is that in our society, we have this thing that, you know, fear, we view fear as a negative emotion. And it is something that that I think for the most part people think that we should be getting rid of, right? Like the idea, the golden standard is to be fearless. Like you see all those videos on YouTube or Facebook where people are jumping off cliffs and, like, you know, surfing and, you know, 60 feet tall waves and all this kind of thing, and we project onto that person that they're a person that is fearless, when in fact I don't necessarily believe that's true. I don't think there is a human being on the planet that could be considered fearless. I think some people have varying degrees of fear, and some may have no fear about certain things, certain actions, certain sports, etc. But I think everybody feels fear in different occasions to varying degrees. Now, what I really want to focus this video on is this idea that fearlessness is the golden standard. For me, fear, first of all, you probably have seen or will see this in other of my videos if you follow me. I have a very strong opinion about considering any emotion negative. This idea that things like pain or fear or anger are negative emotions is not something that I'm in alignment with, because I really do feel that emotions just are. They demand to be felt, and there really shouldn't be any right or wrong or good or bad, or this polarity that we place them into. Emotions just are, and they demand to be felt. What could be positive or negative is the behaviors that you take in response or in reaction to those emotions. But in any case, going back to the fear and fearlessness, there's this idea that fear is a negative thing and it's something that we need to get rid of, or something that we need to overcome, when in fact fear is arguably our most primal emotion. So I do, and it actually serves a very good purpose, right? If you are somewhere on a safari and you see a lion running at you, you're going to feel fear, and that's pretty normal, and that is your survival instinct kicking in, and that is what your body and your mind is supposed to do. That's how your body is supposed to react. So fearlessness to me is not the goal, because I don't think it's a realistic expectation, and I think all it does is it creates this golden standard that we cannot meet, and therefore it becomes another reason why we are not good enough, another reason to feel less worthy or less than others. Right? So to me, what is important to get out of the experience is not that we need to be fearless or that we should be even trying to be fearless, but that we should embrace courage. Not only should we embrace our negative emotion, the fear that we're feeling, but also the resolution for that. If that feeling is creating a negative reaction in you, or a negative action or behavior, then what we should be working towards is to have courage. Meaning that we are taking that emotion and we're harnessing it and we're doing something with it. So for example, in our society, we seem to have this idea that fear and expansion are mutually exclusive, when in fact I think they work very well together. Again, like any emotion, fear is trying to inform you of something that's happening within you. So what I really think the antidote to fear, and actually I wouldn't even want to use the word antidote because that sort of implies that there's something wrong with feeling fear, sorry. The light outside the sun positioning just changed, so the lighting may have gone a little bonkers. But in any case, I don't want to imply that there's anything negative about it. But rather than using fear as something to paralyze you, like I was saying before, you can harness that. And the easiest way to do that, right, is to allow yourself to feel that fear, to recognize it and accept that it's there. Allow yourself to feel it, let it inform you, and then take action accordingly, right? So again, every emotion is trying to inform you of something. And fear can be informing you of a variety of things. It can be informing you of resistance that you still have within you to take some particular action. It can inform you about doubt that you have about some particular action or thing that you're planning or wanting to do. But it can also point you in the direction of what you really should be doing. Sometimes fear is actually your truth, right? So there's sometimes, like for example, we can give the example of someone who's getting married, or someone who's engaged and is about, is planning their wedding and they're about to get married, and they're feeling fear, right? That's fairly normal. People get cold feet when they're going to get married, etc. However, if the fear is deeper, it's really important to take that moment, take that time to allow yourself to feel it and to go looking for what is it trying to tell you. Sometimes it may be trying to tell you that you really should not be marrying that person. And that really is what the use of fear and every emotion, I'll keep repeating this on and on for the video, it'll probably drive you crazy, but it's something that you're probably going to hear a lot in most of my videos, because I really do want to move away from this idea that we have in our society that emotions are negative, or that there is such a thing as negative emotions. Anyway, I digress. So going back to fear, it is something that can inform you and can help you. If you harness that, it can actually help you to make a really conscious and informed decision. Now, the reason why I want to focus on courage is because courage means exactly what I'm describing, right? Taking all of the information, allowing yourself to feel that fear, taking the information, processing it, and then making a choice with all of the pieces of the puzzle together. That is what courage is. Now that may mean that you're still not going to move forward and take that action, meaning, marry that person or take that job or move across the country. But just because you choose not to doesn't make it, the fact that you're choosing not to do it is in fact courage. It doesn't make it less courageous, because you are making an informed decision, and it takes courage to move forward. And it also takes courage to say, no, I want to stay where I am right now. So there is really nothing wrong with that, with making that choice. And we live in a society where everything seems to be a polarity, right? Everything is either right or wrong, or black or white. And the truth of the matter is, and in order to evolve our souls, which is really, or evolve our humanity, which is really what I focus the most, or the focus of all these videos, my channel, and all the work that I do. In order to achieve that, we really need to work at integrating those polarities, right? And knowing that there's either extreme, and that we want to bring those as close together as possible. So some practical suggestions I can make on how to move forward and starting to get more used to this idea of being courageous in your life and harnessing the power of your fear, because it's a very powerful emotion, the power and the strength of that fear to move forward and make conscious choices in your life is, for example, start practicing courage. You can start with very small things, like, for example, something that a lot of people are really afraid of is to go to dinner by yourself at, even somewhere local, somewhere near where you live, or even while you're traveling. If that's something that scares you, you may want to try, like, dip your foot in the water. Like, maybe if you're not comfortable going to dinner or, by yourself, because, whatever, you feel like, dumb or whatever, you can try doing lunch, right? Which is more common to see people sitting out to have lunch by themselves. You could try it for lunch. You could do it when you're traveling. If that's even too much for you, maybe do it like, agree to meet a friend for, say, dinner at 6, but rather than get there at 6, get there at 5:30. So you're not having dinner by yourself, but you're waiting for your friend for like half an hour sitting at the bar by yourself. Or things like that. You can start small. If you are a different kind of person, closer to my style of personality, I'm a bit of what my spiritual teacher and mentor calls the kamikaze. I kind of like to just dive in to the deep end of the pool, because otherwise I just get too scared and I don't do it at all. So one of the things I did when I started this journey of like really just working with my fears was a couple of years ago. I wanted to take a trip. I wanted to go travel, and I've traveled by myself before, so that's not something that, it wasn't something that I loved to do, but it's something that I did a few times because I wanted to go somewhere and I didn't have anybody to go with. Either I wasn't in a relationship then, or my friends couldn't afford it or couldn't get a time off work. Anyways, so this is going to be 3 years ago now, soon, I went to Costa Rica, and I really wanted to go somewhere, and I was feeling this need to just sort of explore certain things that I was afraid of. And I looked online and I found this travel group, which is a travel group that is mostly for singles, I believe. I've been to a few of their tours, and there's people there that are, coupled up, but usually people travel as individuals. But I'm not sure that there's any restrictions. In any case, one of the things that I did was I booked a trip with them. And that trip as an individual, but we were in a group of, I believe, about 15 people. And that trip was to Costa Rica. And the whole purpose of me going on that trip was that I went to do things that scare me. If I'm going to be honest, it's more like things that terrify me. But in any case, in that trip we did things like whitewater rafting, which always looked like fun, but always terrifying because I'm not a great swimmer. And I am deathly afraid of heights. So we did zip lining, and we also did canyoneering, which was mostly like rappelling down waterfalls and things like that. And it was probably one of the best experiences of my entire life. And I've done a lot of travel, and I've done a lot of things in my life. And it was just so unbelievably amazing. The feeling of exhilaration that you get of doing something that you're afraid of and having been able to accomplish that is amazing. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I conquered that fear. I didn't. I am still terribly afraid of heights. I will do the canyoneering again. I will try as hard as I can to avoid zip lining in my life. I will try to avoid doing that in my life at all costs. But in any case, I did do it. And the whitewater rafting and the canyoneering were amazing experiences. They were so much fun, and there are things that I cannot wait to try and do again. So, but most of the positive feeling that I got out of that experience was the fact that I was afraid of something, and I went ahead and, knowing that I was afraid, went ahead and did it anyways. Now, I'm not suggesting here that you override your fears. Like we said at the beginning, fear is a primal emotion and is there for a reason, and it needs to be heard and listened to. Now, but I knew that my fear, my desire to do those things was bigger than my fear. And that is the information that I use to move forward, to propel me forward. So what I'd like to leave you with in this video, the most important part of this video for me, is to reiterate that, or to express to you that fearlessness is not the goal, because fearlessness, in my opinion, is unattainable. That the goal is courage, is to allow yourself to feel that fear, let it inform you, and move forward from a place of conscious choice. That, to me, is what courage is. And to continue to do that in your life, and to continue to make that commitment to yourself, that you're going to move forward in integrity, which to me, integrity always means conscious choice. So with that, please feel free to write any questions you have on the comments, and I'll try to answer as much as I can. Also, if you have any ideas of ways that you've worked with your fears, other tools, other techniques that you want to share, please again go ahead and put them down in the comments. Again, thank you very much for your views, and we'll talk again soon.